Okay, so we're starting chapter 5, lesson 2. This is absolute value. We are working on the essential question of how are integers and absolute value used in real-world situations. We were talking about, in the last chapter on integers and graphing, we talked about like 10-yard loss, how that is an integer, and we explained it as negative 10 yards, right? We don't really, you go backwards 10 yards, okay? We talked about par and how we go from par and add +1. A golfer's score is +1. That means that if par was 4, +1 would indicate 5, or -1 on a par 3 would indicate a 2. So sometimes we can be a little deceptive with our number usage, but we use these integers and these zeros in a way in which are interesting in some counting ways. Okay, we are dealing with the lesson E essential question of how can absolute value help you understand the size of a quantity. We'll go and delve in that in just a little bit. We will get 2 new vocabulary words, absolute value and opposites. We're going to go with opposites first. Opposite number that are the same distance from 0 in opposite directions. Okay, you can kind of see how -2 is opposite of 2 because they are the exact same length from 0, but one is in the opposite direction of the other. Okay, since 0 is not negative or positive, 0 is its own opposite. The opposite of the opposite of number is the number for itself. Don't let word trickery mess you up. For example, the opposite of 3, -3 times, negative, making a -3 is 3. Okay, just like, well, anyway. Okay, that's not that hard. We'll talk about that more in just a second. All right. My first example is find the opposite of -5. Now, there's 2 ways in which they want to show you. Okay, one is using a number line. Okay, you draw a number line and graph -5. Okay, ta-da! -5 is 5 units to the left of 0. The integer 5 is 5 units to the right of 0. Okay, so you're going in the opposite direction. So 5 is the opposite of -5. My preferred method is method number 2, which is a little bit easier to understand. The integer -5 uses the negative symbol. The opposite of negative symbol is a positive symbol. So the opposite of -5 is +5, or just 5, because we assume that a number without a negative sign is positive. Then it asks, find the opposite of 4. Okay? It's the same number. It's the same number. Let's not, they got a way of showing it here. Okay? The opposite of 4 is -4, and then the opposite of -4 is 4. The opposite of 4. Okay? So they're initially trying to get you to get the opposite of 4, and the opposite of 4 is -4, and the opposite of -4 is 4. Okay, it's just word trickery. It's the same. Okay? All right. I'm not going to use any way of doing this. This is going to be a very simple way of doing this. I just changed the sign. Okay? What is the opposite of 3? The opposite of 3 is, well, since there's no positive sign, that means it's positive, so the opposite of 3 is -3. What is the opposite of -2? Okay, we already determined that the opposite of the opposite is the same. So what is the same as -2? -2. Okay, not a big, heavy concept to wrap your head around. All right, absolute value. Absolute value of a number is the distance between the number and 0 on the number line. Okay, so the absolute value of 4 would be 4 because it's 4 units from the 0 on the number line, and the absolute value of -4 is also 4 because it is 4 units from 0. Now, the way I remember it to make it easy, I guess, understanding exactly what it is great, and that's what this is, okay? But it just makes a number positive. Makes a number positive, okay? Or the positive, or makes the number positive, okay? Makes the number positive. Okay, that's the way you keep it in your head. Okay, it is the absolute value is just the distance between the number and 0 on the number line. Okay, so it just makes the number positive. Just recognize that. So if you evaluate -7, it would be, huzzah, 7. Okay, look, all they are is just changing the number to positive. Okay, you're trying to find how far it is from 0. You don't say something is -7 away from you. You say it's 7 away from you. Okay? Then it says evaluate. Absolute value of 5 plus the absolute value of 6. All right? You evaluate the absolute value signs first. So that goes 5 plus 6. The absolute value of 5 is 5. The absolute value of -6 is 6. And that's 11. But nothing heavy, guys. Nothing heavy. Okay, here you go. Evaluate the absolute value of -7 minus the absolute value of 3. Whoops, didn't mean to take that all the way down. All right, absolute value of -7 is 7. The absolute value of 3 is 3. 7 minus 3 is 4. Ta-da! Okay, nothing shocking. Okay, the only thing you got to remember is it makes numbers positive. Don't overthink this. Okay? Let me extend the page. The absolute value of 14 is, well, 14. Okay, you first evaluate the absolute value signs. The absolute value of -9 is 9, plus the absolute value of 3 is 3. 9 plus 3 is 12. Okay, the absolute value of -8 is 8, minus the absolute value of -2 is 2, and that equals 6. Nothing too shocking. Here, let me give you another example. There's another example that they actually talk about that I've seen. Okay. Oh, let's make it 13. All right. Okay. You do everything inside the absolute value sign first. Okay. That has no bearing on the negative sign. The negative sign is not inside the absolute value sign. So you evaluate -13, the absolute value of 13 is 13. You keep the negative, okay? G, let me give you one more. There's another one that don't want you to get confused on. Okay? You evaluate inside the absolute value sign first, keep the negative. Okay? All right. That's all there. Let me see. There's one more. Okay, this is actually a pretty good one. A seagull is flying 25 feet above sea level. Nevaeh is diving 15 feet below sea level. What is the distance between Nevaeh and the seagull? Okay, you would write it something like this. All right, you'd write it like that. You evaluate 25, then you evaluate the absolute value of 25, and then you evaluate the absolute value of 15, and then you make it so. Ta-da! Nothing big. Okay, don't get confused on that. Okay, don't get confused on that. When you're setting up a problem like this, the seagull is flying 25 feet above. Well, you'd use 25, right? Nevaeh is diving 15 feet below sea level, so you'd say something probably negative like 15. Because if you drew it, it would look something like this, right? You have your number line here. Okay, we got 0 as what? They describe what 0 is. Sea level, right? They describe sea level as being 0, so we got this sea level here. Right? Okay, once you've got that idea, you have your seagull. I'm not a very good drawer here, but let me do my checks here real quick. We'll make these what? 5, 10, 15, no, we'll make them 10 apiece. 10, 20, 30, and this will be 10, 20, 30. -10, -20, -30, right? Right, and you got your seagull at what? Not 30, 25. And then you got your diver at 15, right? Got a diver, let me see, do I put a little back here and then swimming off to the side, got goggles on, right? Make long hair. Ooh. All right, bubbles. Okay. All right, you got a diver, right? They want to know what the total feet is between them. All right. So the way that you set this up is we call 25 above 25. That's where they get this from, right? This is 25. And we would label something like the diver is negative 15 below, right? We're talking about where sea level is 0. Okay? The way to change this so that it's workable is you'd put them both in absolute value symbols. Just put everything in absolute value symbols. It doesn't hurt it, you know? It doesn't affect it so bad. Right now, we want to make sure everything is positive, right? And when we make it happen, right? The absolute value of 25 is 25. Keep the addition sign. The absolute value of negative 15 is 15. And you get all of a sudden the actual answer of what? 40? You got 40 feet? 40 feet distance between the two of them? Okay, it's pretty good. It's actually a pretty good example. Okay, start the guided practice. All right, the homework is extra practice 361, 362. All right, thank you. Gotta find it.